Dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Manzur Ahmad, lecturer history. Our today's question for 12th class students of history subject is why were Zamindaris auctioned after the permanent settlement of 1793 AD? Dear students, as we know that one of the important features of the permanent settlement of Bengal of 1793 was that the Zamindaris who had huge tracts of land under their control, the Zamindaris are accepted or recognized as the owners of the land, as they were given ownership rights over the vast tracts of land. And but after some time, their Zamindaris, their land estates were snatched from them and auctioned and given to other Zamindars. Now the question is that if in the permanent settlement the Zamindars were given huge land estates under their control, under their ownership, then why after some time the company, the East British East India Company, snatched the land estates from them and gave Zamindaris and auctioned Zamindaris and gave them to some other Zamindars? What were the reasons behind this? Dear students, let's answer the question now. We know that in the permanent settlement of Bengal of 1793 AD, many Zamindars were given the ownership rights for vast areas of land, vast tracts of land. And this ownership of the land was given to them on the condition that they would be able to continue deposition of revenue land into the company from time to time on due time and due payment. So the condition for the continuation of ownership of a Zamindar or his land estate was that he had to pay continuous land revenue to the people, to the British East India Company from time to time. In the case of failure of the Zamindar to pay due amount of land revenue to the company on the due time, his Zamindar was auctioned. So we mean to say the Zamindaris of the Zamindars, the land estates of the Zamindars after permanent settlement were auctioned because Zamindars were not able to pay the due land revenue amount which company fixed with them to pay from time to time. And some reasons why Zamindars failed to pay the desired revenue to the company from time to time. Some reasons for this can be seen that the number one, land revenue demand of the company was very high, and it is believed that sometimes the demand was more than the land demand was more than the actual production of the peasants, actual production of the crops. We also understand that soon after the permanent settlement of 1793, the prices of the food grains declined, which made it difficult for the peasants for the peasants to pay revenue to the Zamindars. And when peasants were not able to pay revenue to the Zamindars were not able to pay revenue to the company, which made them defaulter before the company, and company auctioned their Zamindari. Number next, land revenue was to be deposited punctually on time, irrespective of good crop or bad crop. Means it was the responsibility of the Zamindar to deposit land revenue to the company from time to time on due time, whether there are good crops or bad crops. And at the time of bad crops, when the peasants had no crops, they had nothing to pay to the Zamindars. As a result, when Zamindars were not able to pay any land into the company, they proved defaulters, and thus in this sense as well, the Zamindaris were auctioned. Number next, the power of Zamindars was curbed by the British East India Company as their troops were disbanded. Thus, at times peasants refused to pay revenue despite good harvest. Means that, as I told you earlier in previous lecture as well, the Zamindars in earlier times had some soldiers under their control as well, and these soldiers helped these Zamindars to collect land revenue from the peasants. If some peasants refused to pay land revenue to the Zamindar, they were made to pay with the help of soldiers. They were arrested, they were beaten, and their land revenue was snatched from them forcibly. But when this military power, when the soldiers were snatched from them, there was no fear of Zamindar in the eyes of the peasant, because they had no military power, they had no judicial powers now. As a result, Zamindar was made helpless. So at times, even when peasants had good harvest, good crops, they refused to pay any land revenue to the Zamindar, Zamindar, because they knew that the Zamindar had no military power, no soldiers at his disposal, so he cannot do anything against them. So they, due to the curtailment of the powers of this curtailment of the military powers of the Zamindars, he became weak, as a result of which at times Zamindars, the peasants, deliberately refused to pay land revenue to him, which also made him defaulter in the eyes of the British East India Company, which led to the auctioning of his zamindari. Number next, many times Jotidars and peasants. Jotidars, we know these are in the North Bengal, a powerful group of peasants there, deliberately delayed the land revenue payment. When the Jotidars and the other peasants deliberately delayed the land revenue payment to the Zamindar was not therefore able to make due payment of land revenue to the company on due time, which made him defaulter in the eyes of the company and auctioning of his land estate as well. Thank you.